So mind care of mental health professionals is something that we all need to be a little bit aware about as we are talking about mental health of everyone. And I'd like to share my journey as a child, where starting from a child being very nervous, very shy, very confident. I'm a little nervous right now also. But from that to being a more confident person, to being comfortable with myself and not trying to always fit into the expectations. The left one, I still remember that picture where I was small taken and I was just trying to look perfect and I was under so much of pressure, and that comes from childhood, trying to fit into everyone's expectation. And that is something that I have had a lot of experiences that have been hitting. And when I was doing my post-graduation, there were 4 suicides I witnessed back to back in 2 years. And those were very close cousins, relatives, one friend. And then I felt that this is something that I need to do something about this. I want to be in a profession where I'm able to help somebody, be able to counsel, and maybe if I can prevent one life from committing suicide, I think I've served a purpose. And that's how I got into counseling and therapy, and since 15 years, I've been helping people to deal with their concerns. But another learning was, as a therapist, as a counselor, when I'm helping others, sorting their concerns and their issues, there are a lot of things that we go through as therapists and a lot of issues that we are dealing on a regular basis. And I really wanted to talk more about this. What are those kinds of challenges? What is it that we go through? A lot of emotional fatigue when we are trying to understand another person, empathy, when we are trying to be in the shoes of the other person. There's something called as somatic empathy, when we actually feel the pain. Let's say that someone has gone through a trauma and we are trying to help them. We suddenly start feeling that kind of pain ourselves, and that is the kind of emotional distress a therapist could be going through. And there are many other challenges, like sometimes a client could be very emotionally attached, and how do we detach? It could be both ways. And these are some of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis, and it's really difficult to deal with. It leads to a lot of emotional stress and burnout that comes along with our sessions, which are back-to-back. And this is on a lighter note, we don't go to sleep in session. But it is like sometimes we do feel so drained. We do feel at times that I don't know if I can do more or not, if I'm able to help the other person or not. Is their life going to be in danger because I'm not doing it perfect? So there are a lot of self-imposed expectations also that we keep going through. But the biggest burden is the expectation of being perfect. As a psychologist, as a therapist, people expect that you should be how can your life be imperfect? How can you have a problem? You should be understanding all the time. And, irrespective of what we are going through, there's always a perfect picture that we have to put up. And this burden really pulls us down a lot of times. We never ask a doctor, how did you fall sick? Or, why can't a surgeon treat himself or herself? But a psychologist is expected to have perfect, mind at all times, which is a big challenge because that's the kind of expectation and perception which is there. And time and again we have to keep reminding that we are not psychology expert robots, and we are humans too. We have emotions, we feel bad, we feel like crying, we feel like all of those emotions that every human feels. Now don't say robots have emotions, that's another topic altogether. Okay, so this is something that is very important, that we want to share, that we also go through things which needs to be dealt with. Most of the time we end up putting up this face that, okay, everything is fine, and we keep smiling, but behind that face that we project, there's a lot going on behind, and people need to be a little bit more mindful about what a therapist could also be going through at the time when they are trying to be there for someone else and trying to help another person. And there's a big taboo on seeking help for mind care for general people, but also for mental health professionals. Again, there's a lot of stigma. As a professional, how can I seek help? So this is really important. As professionals, we should also seek help and therapy when we are trying to balance our own selves out before we are trying to reach out and help other people. And seeking therapy is not bad. I have also been through depression, anxiety, and all sorts of things, and I have sought help, and it has helped me. And I'm definitely sure that if it has helped me, it can help every other person. And very importantly, sometimes, if you don't feel like going for therapy, you can just have a long chat with a friend and speak our hearts out. That can also be very relaxing and relieving. That can also be a big help. And this is something that is very crucial at all times, especially when we have a lot of traumatic sessions that we are going through and what we are experiencing. Dear Zindagi is one movie where the beautiful relationship between the therapist and the client has been portrayed. And another key factor that was shared is the therapist may not have a perfect personal life, and that's okay. And this is something that as therapists we should also not be burdened up with those expectations of the society and understand where do we need to cut down. Say no when we can't do it and say it's okay, I can't, maybe we can reschedule, and maintain timelines where don't take too much of stress of sessions after sessions after sessions. Take a lot of breaks. As therapists we keep saying do a lot of self-care to others, but a lot of self-care is required for our own self. Maybe a little bit of yoga, some reflection, where we see after every session did it trigger some of my own emotion, where I also have had times where I've heard another client, I almost felt like crying, and it's just required to pause and see, did I feel different after the session? How did I feel? How am I dealing with it? So a lot of self-reflection is required, and time and again doing things that help us relax ourselves is also required as therapists, as professionals. This can be applicable to all of us, as we also be friends, empathetic friends to all of you, all of them. So it's not just therapists, it's all of us who are at some point of the time, we are therapists to somebody or the other, this may be a family member. So stand up against the stigma of not being okay. It's okay to not be okay. Even if we are a therapist, there are support groups. Just like for everyone else, there are support groups specifically for mental health therapists, and we can make use of that. And best thing is, come and speak at Pacha Kucha, because when you're speaking your heart out, you feel so relaxed and liberated. I'm definitely feeling that right now, and it was a great time to talk to you, and I'm really feeling great. Thanks to Ravi for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.